Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Josh, also known as Hoshnasi. I have another channel here on YouTube called Hoshnasi, Hoshnasi, just like the thing up in the corner above my head says. I got a 3D printer not too long ago after getting tons and tons of recommendation to get involved with 3D printing. And what ended up happening was kind of a happy accident. Years ago, it feels like years ago anyway, I saw a Kickstarter for the TIKO printer, and I thought, hey, what the hell? $100, get a 3D printer, great. And so I kicked in, got the Kickstarter for the TIKO printer, and it showed up a couple of days ago. It's been that long in getting this whole thing done. So I've been playing around with it. I'm having more failures than successes. This was actually my first success. Is this little poop emoji, which is funny enough as I was making all these posts on Instagram how this piece of crap can't print, and jokingly I went and downloaded the 3D emoji print, and it printed well. It was my first time to have any kind of success with this 3D printer. The TIKO is an interesting 3D printer. It's it's fairly no frills, and let's go back to when they first started talking about the TIKO. Years ago, when they proposed it, it was based off the technology at the time, and they took the Kickstarter funds and they took all that stuff for making the thing that was decent to middling back then. Now, it's a bit older technology, right? You can get the what is it? The not mass drop. There's plenty of other mini 3D printers that are on the market now that you can get for like $200, and it comes with like a heated table, heated base plate for building, lots of features that the TIKO just doesn't have. And there's some shortcomings to the TIKO itself. So as you've probably seen, the TIKO has this kind of, it's a delta, meaning that it's using 3 sets of arms to control the pitch and the elevation. That restricts your base to a circle size, right? Because it's the triangular circle rotation. Now, the problem is that there's no real air control, and you don't have a heated build plate, so you can't really do ABS plastics. And the PLA has problems because there's no active cooling. The major problems that I'm having with the TIKO is that there are problems with it dribbling out of the nozzle, and the temp control for the PLA extrusion. Now, part of that is due with the fact that it is like this enclosed little box that it's running in right now, and it's pretty hot in there. And then you have the ambient temperature inside your house or your garage or wherever you do your prints. And so there's all kinds of variables that you have to account for when you're working with the TIKO. That's not to say that it's not a bad printer. It's just I paid $175. I didn't get the $100 price. There was only a few of those, and those went out relatively quickly years ago when it was available. So $175. I would have rather just kind of saved the $25 and went with the other one. In fact, let me look that one up because I'm going to keep referencing it, and I don't want to keep referring to it as the wrong name. Anyway, for those that are watching right now, my background is I'm an engineer. I'm a systems engineer. Before that, I was a software engineer. I'm a ham radio operator, so I'm very familiar with getting my hands dirty, working on electronics, and all kinds of fun stuff. Yeah, the Monoprice Mini. So if I were to do this all over again, if I were to get my $175 of last year's money or the year before that money back, I'd probably go with the Monoprice 3D Mini. It's got a heated build plate. It's going to be a little bit more successful. It has a little bit more options. It's way more tweakable. And that's one thing I should probably show you guys is, I can't do it while I am in the print. I'll have to do that. I'll have to do that as another chat. When you have the TIKO GUI up, which is a web GUI, you can't really look at a lot of other, there's not a lot of control. The only thing that you have control over is layer thickness, and default it's a 0.2. Temperature, it's the lowest it goes is 180, and it goes, I believe, it's a high of 220 plus. I've never even gotten into 220 plus because it comes 220 as the standard default, but when you do that, you get like way over temping, and you get strings all throughout your print. and it doesn't work very well. You get a lot of really gloopy droplets all over the place because the nozzle seems like the nozzle part of the TIKO is having problems with their software. Or I don't even know if it's a software problem. I think it's a temperature control problem. The nozzle continuously is like extruding, and even when you don't have any pressure applied from the extruder, there's just a lot to do, right? If I was working on the software, I was a part of the team. The hardware is the hardware, so the only thing you can do is correct everything via software, and they've got a lot on their plate. They really do. Let's see, how's it looking so far? The hull of the ship seems okay. Or not. Is that a support? I can't tell. I'll have to wait a little bit. I'm not sure if that's a support or if that was a drip from earlier when it was building the raft. Anyway, it's supposed to be about a 2-hour print. I don't know that I'm going to stick around for the whole thing, but I am going to let this stream the entire time so that we can do the whole thing. You can see what happens. If you notice on the right-hand side above the BENCHY, there's like a little black abrasion that's kind of up on the piece there, the build plate. TIKO actually did that to itself. I don't know why. I don't know what possessed it to do this, but it has an auto configuration, auto leveling that it does, or you can do it manually. And I normally just let it do auto config unless I have a failed print. And if it fails, then I do a manual config. Anyway, for some reason, TIKO decided that it was going to just ram its nozzle into the bed and then heat up and extrude at the same time. Don't know why. Don't know why it did that. The support team at the TIKO team is not there right now. They're back. They're off for the holidays. Here in the States, we're holidays through tomorrow. Everybody's back to work tomorrow. I don't know why that happened. I'm going to find out if it's a warranty item and I can get a replacement print bed, because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't stop it if I tried. It just immediately slammed down after doing its calibration. And yeah, that was it. Not great. So I guess all in all, I guess you can say the TIKO is attempting to do something. It's trying to be like the easy bake oven of 3D printing. It's not really for kids necessarily, but it's supposed to be an entry-level printer. And because of that, there aren't a lot of settings. And as I kind of stopped myself. But so you have layer thickness at 0.2. You have an infill density that goes as low as 15%. You can't go any lower than 15% at this time. And then up to 100%. There's the ability to, so their support structure is, there's an option there, it's a radio button. It's always set to off. I'm assuming that's based off of your model. And then on the left-hand side, there's manual controls. And the manual controls will let you to adjust the brightness of the LED lights in the system. You can load filament, you can unload filament, you can heat the nozzle. That's about the entirety of your control. What you can do is you can enlarge by using the on-screen 3D controls for whatever you're printing. I'm printing BENCHY at 100%. I didn't modify it at all. And I set the nozzle to 190, which I've been playing with anywhere between 185 and 190 for here in my office. The default is 220, so you can imagine that's a pretty big downscale. Anyway. I'm going to let this print for a second. I'm going to go refill my beverages, and I'm going to hang out, and we're going to talk a little bit more. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. We've got some people watching right now. If you're interested in the TIKO or anything like that, and my experience is up to date so far, feel free to post them, and we'll talk about it. Okay, I'll be right back. Alright. How's Benchy going? I should say, how's TIKO going? I could just look at my own monitor here instead of actually trying to look at the machine. It's actually kind of a better angle than the one I can see from my desk. Eat some Christmas candy. 'Tis the season for eating Christmas candy. So far, so good. To be frank, after the poop emoji, I'm not so worried about the hole, or TIKO doing the hole. That doesn't seem to be a problem. It's when you start getting into the fine detail lines, I think there's going to be a big problem. Also, I'm almost positive that the smokestack will not print. This model is the one with the smokestack, so should be interesting. Unless you run out of filament, which is another thing I've experienced. I've gotten a couple filament breaks, and part of it was due to the way that the spool. I'll have to do another video on this, but it needs to have some discussion. The way that the spool unwinds into the feed tube for the TIKO, if the feed tube is kind of towards the top of where the spool lays on its side, if the filament is all the way down at the bottom of the reel and it's pulling, it can put just enough of a torque on it that it'll break. I don't know if that's the quality of the PLA that was provided in the default in the box, so to speak, or if that's something that is just an issue with the TIKO. I don't know. I've also had an issue, not so much with the TIKO, but with my cameras focusing on the PLA that I'm trying to use here. Let's see if I can adjust this manually. That is about the best I think I can do. What if I bump the contrast a bit? Oh, white balance is set to auto. Let's change that. Brightness added. Okay. Should help a bit. I don't know how well this is going to come through. Hopefully you see this okay. I can reduce myself down a bit. Anyway, this is the TIKO's forum that I've been getting pretty active on, and it's been kind of interesting. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of people with the TIKO yet, and a lot of them are still kind of newbies. So you've got this kind of group of experienced people that are talking about issues they're having and why they could be having these issues. And then you have like a whole bunch of posts about people who just don't know what they're doing specifically. Not that they're dumb, they're just not experienced in it yet. And they're asking these kind of repetitive questions over and over. You get a lot of that. Anyway, I'm seeing that a ton of time. So it looks like people on the general board are posting a lot of stuff that they've attempted to print. And to be honest, there's a whole lot of failures out there. There's a whole lot of people that are having major issues with the TIKO. Now, it's gotten better. It's gotten much better. Poop emoji is an example of it getting much better. I don't know why they're not showing up. Now, one thing I haven't done is craftware. Craftware would allow you to kind of go in and tweak some stuff a bit. Because like I said, there's a lot of stuff that's completely out of our control. Yeah, like printing without rafts. Somebody's asking for that as a solution to some of the problems they're seeing. Because truly, it's you don't really need to print with the rafts most of the time. So far, everything is sunny in Benchy land here. For those who don't know what Benchy is supposed to look like, I have the screen up for a second. That's Benchy. Benchy is a kind of a test print for 3D printers. It gives you what's going on here? Should be switching. There we go. Benchy puts a lot of details. It's got archways, it's got squares, it's got circles, and then it's got molding around the archways and the doors. It's got a vertical smokestack with a bit of a lip on it. And all of those things have been tested down to the micron level. And so you can go in with a pair of calipers when you're done, and you can compare your print to the print to the model of Benchy itself. So that's very, very cool. Here's a couple of prints. There's accessory pieces, which I think is funny. I like this wave. Somebody created a stand to put Benchy on. That's a cool looking filament too they used to make their Benchy. It looks like a gold, almost wood colored. And then there's a stand for some reason for all your Benchies that you have. I don't plan on making a bunch of Benchies, although I would end up doing it again with ABS, or if I continue to have problems, I'll do it every time they do a firmware update. And something else I should mention too. The one interesting thing about the TIKO is that they have... Okay, there we go. They have... it's Wi-Fi enabled, so you get updates pushed to the system every time you restart it. So every once in a while, power cycle the TIKO, and it'll make this flashing look like it's looking for a patch or an update. And when I first set it up, it did in fact do that, but since then it has not. And that's largely because I think everybody's on break right now, on holiday. So we picked up a tiny little, I don't know if you can see it towards the I don't know my starboard bow, all that stuff, but on the rear kind of left side of the print, there's a small little piece sticking up. That was a thread, a string. Fascinating, this 3D printing. Just fascinating. Another thing that's kind of dumb. A couple of things. So, it's a 6.5 spool, and so it makes getting makes getting filament kind of difficult. I understand that like most is a 200 millimeter spool, and this is a less than that, 160, something like that. Not great. I'm not really sure why they went that way. So here's an interesting concept. It's making a lot of popping noises right now. It's not normally doing that. I'm not sure what that's all about. It's something, again, when I mentioned that the filament's down at the bottom of the reel, it seems like it's pulling out from underneath somehow things that spun on top of it. That's not good, but whatever. So yeah, the spool design thing is kind of an issue. So it's going to become something where you have to, like, if you want the sleek look of the TIKO sitting on your desk, then you're going to need something to, like, unspool your large spool onto the TIKO. Not a great solution, but I don't know. I don't know what else to do. Yikes. It's not making great noises. Oh, here's a high-res picture of the poop emoji. You can see the top and very tip, all the drips. That's due to the minimum time layer. The TIKO has this race condition, right? On one hand, you need to wait for the layer to dry, and on the other hand, TIKO is constantly oozing out material, and it doesn't seem like it can stop itself. So what happens is if your wait cycle, which is not under your control, you have no control over it, it's done by TIKO. If your wait cycle is longer than that drip can form, you get droplets on the tip. Another good example is I printed this owl, and this owl has the same problem, the leftmost ear, left from your point of view. It's just all kinds of wonky going on. But if you look at the right side, it's fine. What's the difference? Well, that ear was a part of this whole other layer of print. So while TIKO was off printing that layer, the ear dried, it didn't need to sit and wait, thus material didn't get spilled everywhere. I had something else. I think I might have thrown it away, actually. I did. I shouldn't have done that. I'll see if I can find it. I printed a whistle, and the whistle largely came out fine, except that there was a whole layer shift, like a huge layer shift, and then it just went straight up from there. And that wasn't because it was disconnected from the print bed or anything like that. It just said, I'm done with this layering stuff. Kind of weird. Yeah, a lot of comments have been coming in on basically the best way to handle things like this drip is if TIKO were to go over to some other spot, an empty spot in the model, and just deposit the drip, like make a box, right? Just be over there working on a box and come back and then finish once the layer's dry. That way you wouldn't have this crap, these drips. That would allow you to fine tune the filament temperature better, which would prevent some of this other stuff that I've got going on with Mr. Poop Emoji here. Is it not extruding anymore? I can't tell. It's certainly not making a good noise, so let me... Oh! Ha-ha, yep. Failure to print. Alright, this sucks. So, this has happened a few times, and I don't believe this is my fault. Let me stop the print. There's a couple ways of doing it too, so let me just take the whole printer and tilt it over. We'll stop the print. Now, let's see if I've got enough slack to show you here. Okay, so here's the top of the TIKO, and the print fill is right by my finger. The filament is under one of the loops, and so it's stuck basically. So now what you have to do is you got to go in and you got to unload the TIKO. So I'm going to unload the filament on it now to change my... Another problem